choosing a course that connects you with a career. Joining me for the webinar, I have two alumni who are great examples of how UWL can connect you to a truly rewarding career. These sessions are aimed at bringing together some amazing UWL alumni who have given up their time to share their experiences and expertise to benefit you. During these discussions, if you have any questions, please do post them in the question and answers box, and I will try to get through as many of them as I possibly can. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our panelists for this particular webinar. First, I would like to introduce Shadia Usta, who studied at the School of Law and now works as a senior community service solicitor. Shadia, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello, and thank you very much for asking me to be here today. It's a pleasure to be back and to speak to everyone at this particular time. Yes, I'm Shadia Usta-Durfel. I'm a senior community services solicitor in local authority. That's essentially public law based, but I'm also a solicitor advocate because I took the higher rights course and exam, and therefore I can speak in the High Courts as well. And the areas that I specialise in are adult social care, anyone who's vulnerable over the age of 18, and yeah, anything public law related.
Thank you very much, Shadia. And I'd also like to introduce for today's webinar, Aidan McFarn. Aidan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Of course. So hello, everybody. My name's Aidan. I went to the University of West London in 2014 and studied tourism management with the lovely James, who's here, who was one of my lecturers. And I now work for a boutique hotel booking agent. I've been there for 3 years, specialising in luxury holidays and hotels across the world. Lots of travel, lots of great people to meet along the way. So yeah, looking forward to answering some questions today.
Excellent. And before we go on, one thing I should have probably done as well is just quickly introduce myself. So my name is James Sedmans. I'm the Dean for the London Gaelic College of Hospitality and Tourism, where Aidan actually studied his travel and tourism programme. Right, so before we go any further, one thing I should probably say is that at this point, it is important to emphasise that the University of West London is the career university. And while Shadia and Aidan work in particular sectors, any course that you study with us will give you the skills, experience and expertise and industry know-how that you will need to get ahead in your career. This evening, what we're going to look to do is break down the panel into 3 specific areas. The first area is concentrating on the careers of our panelists. And therefore, what I'd like to do is start with you, Shadia, and ask you what drew you to your particular career?
Well, I was actually a returning student. I didn't go straight from A-levels. I actually had a short career in the travel industry at the time, and then found myself doing a lot of sort of customer relations, problem solving, complaints work, and trying to basically investigate a lot of things that had either gone wrong or people had been writing in letters. And it was something akin to what might be considered advisory work or sort of investigative work to solve issues between people. So I chose a career in law at the time when UWL was actually Thames Valley University. So everyone has changed and progressed and done incredibly well. And that was, yeah, I went back at the age of 24. And so I thought I'd be quite old, but it was really nice to go into the university and see that actually there was such a broad range of ages, of cultures, of sort of appreciations from all sorts of backgrounds. And I think one of the biggest things that attracted me during the open day to UWL was not just the tour in the campus, which was nothing like it is now, but also the idea that there was a kind of embrace towards people who've had another career or who've come back to it, because there was this idea that you really, you know, a great motivation behind it, and that you're not just sort of moving through the expected stages of education towards some sort of career rather than the one that you actually wanted. So yeah, I got on the law degree, which was fantastic. It was an excellent period of time because it was, personally, it was odd to try and settle back into study, but at the same time, it was made very easy for me. I had great tutors. It was very well organized. It was very easily accessible. Of course, at the time, it was back in the days when you go to lectures, and of course it will be again, whether it's hybrid or completely there. And it was just a lovely atmosphere, really. It was a lovely atmosphere within which to work. There wasn't a pressure put on you. That I think one of the first things I was told on the law course by the first lecture we had was, lawyers, we don't know everything, we just know where to look it up. And I immediately felt at ease. So there was this a very human approach to a degree. And it wasn't necessarily because I was older. I think, there were people who were younger and older than me there. So that was a big deal. And also I wanted to see, people ask you why that you did actually law. And of course, everyone says, oh, I wanted to help people. But, you don't kind of do it for yourself as such, because especially if you're going to the public sector, you must be doing it for love to do it in the public sector. And that's not a criticism. It's just a fact. And you'll look at the salaries alone. But I think in this particular, and I've got to say that while there's a lot of modules to choose from in terms of introducing you to family law or areas of a more public law nature, what I'm doing now was I never envisaged the path that I would actually take to get there. So of course, television was a huge influence as well. And I think I just always, as you can probably tell, and James is probably wondering, yes, I can see she likes to talk. That's probably why she wanted to be a lawyer. But we found out that actually some of the best law students were the ones who knew when to talk and the ones who could speak less and say more.
Good stuff. Thank you very much. And Aidan, same question to you. What drew you into a career with Mr. and Mrs. Smith Travel and in tourism in general?
So from a young age, I was quite lucky when my parents had traveled a lot and liked to travel. So I was sort of brought up into a world of lots and lots of travel, whether it be Europe or a little bit further afield. And from an early age, I became absolutely fascinated by travel and the different cultures and how things worked. And obviously at that point, it was very basic knowledge. I hadn't been to university yet and only studying geography at school and in A-levels. And then I realized at the end of it that I wanted to go to study something specifically to do with travel, but it was obviously, I was looking around trying to find what I wanted to do. I didn't want to do a geography degree because it's a little bit, for me, too academic, and I was more interested in just travel. Came across the University of West London, and the course that they were offering was exactly what I wanted to do. It was not so exam-based, and I knew that by doing the course at the University of West London, it would build my career much more, being the career university. From there, I just sort of sat into it straight away and doing presentations. And I knew it was a key part of going and getting a job and not just sitting and doing exams, because as much as they're a very important part of life and learning skills, doing presentations and report writing, that is actually something I do now. So that's kind of my stepping stones into the travel industry and with university.
And Mr. and Mrs. Smith, your first company, or have you worked in any other company before?
Second company. So I actually worked for a travel company just around the corner. There was an Asia tour operator from the university itself, just on St Mary's Road. Quite interesting. I wanted to get some experience whilst at university in a company. So I actually went and knocked on their door, said, can I volunteer to work with you? And they offered me a job straight away and said, it was very much a basic job to begin with, but just to learn the skills and to do that. And within 2 years, they'd actually sent me out to Asia on the Silk Road. And I launched their Silk Road product for their tours. So me and a colleague went out there whilst I was at university still. And we built and contracted suppliers and went out there and developed new itineraries and things, and came back and I was selling them whilst I was at university, and a few hours a day I was going in there to work. So it was fascinating.
A big challenge, which links us quite nicely into my next question for the both of you. So I'll start with Aidan on this one, and that is, what do you think has been your biggest challenge so far that you've faced in your career?
There's definitely two. I think we all know what one of them might be, having worked in the travel industry for the last 18 months. But I say to begin with, it actually is the experience. And I think this is something that's a lot of people relate to, and it's finding the right experience and opportunities. I think you have to put yourself out there, which is what I found. If you just sort of sit in your little shell and don't make an effort, those opportunities won't come, and therefore you're not going to get that experience. So it's a huge part. That was the first challenge, but thankfully, and I'll explain it a little bit later on because I know there's some questions that are going to come about this. But the university definitely did give me the experience in lots of areas that I needed. And obviously, the second part of that, the biggest challenge has been COVID,
Sure.
especially having worked in the travel industry and having to obviously worry about things, but also manage what's going on within your respective company to make sure things play out how they need to, and we can move on and forward as a business.
And I presume Mr. Smith is a premium type brand, isn't it? So it's technically, I suppose, now seeing itself developing slightly ahead of perhaps the normal kind of business or leisure market.
Exactly, yeah. So we saw a bit of a boost in revenue earlier on this year, which we forecasted. We weren't sure the extent it was going to come, but I think that's because the market we're going into, the high values, people have worked really hard throughout the pandemic, and they want to go and have some time to themselves and relax, and they want to get those bookings in to do so. Yeah, we definitely saw it boom a lot earlier, and we're really, really happy with the recovery. It's just good keeping people in jobs as well.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And Shadia, I suppose, on a daily basis, there must be new challenges from a kind of legal perspective, but what would you say has been your biggest challenge so far?
Yes, that's right. Well, if you're in law, you like a challenge, and everything's either being challenged or bringing a challenge. So bring it on. That's what I say. But I think for me, especially at the beginning, was the biggest challenge. I think is to was getting a training contract, or actually just trying to get a foot in the actual profession. Not that doing things like being a paralegal is not important, or any work experience or voluntary work is incredibly important. But I was lucky that I was offered a scholarship at UWL at the time to do the LPC, and I was lucky that they even offered the LPC because I was prepared to pay for it. But then I didn't want to have to repeat any exams either as well. So I was lucky that it was there was a seamless transition from the degree course straight on to the professional qualification I would need to actually get there, so I could do my degree and then just go straight in the same place, carry on with the legal practice course, which you need if you want to qualify as a solicitor. I was also very lucky that the university had the community advice program at the time, which I could volunteer at and gain that essential experience. And on the LPC course, there was actually the opportunity to do work experience at a local law firm who remembered me when I applied for a paralegal post there. Then I became a paralegal there, and then there was a training contract opportunity. So it was a wonderful opportunity to have it all, I don't want to say sort of freshly baked, and you feel like you're in the cake and you can feel it rising with everything that's happening. But it was just a fantastic pathway into it, when nothing was wasted and everything was, you were fully supported to get that foot into where you wanted to be, howsoever that was, and have those opportunities that you could put on your CV, even if it wasn't immediate.
Yeah. So both of you, Aidan and Shadia, have kind of alluded to it in some respects, but how would you say that your time at the University of West London has kind of helped support you in developing your career? Shadia.
Wow. Well, I mean, it launched me. I would say it launched me because it was incredibly hard. You hear things, I think in the legal profession, we've got to be quite realistic and realize that you hear things about the milk round, and there'll be certain providers and institutions who will feed, into various places, and that you kind of need all the support you can get, but at the same time you're still also finding out exactly what area you want to go into, and so having that professional launch pad to ease you into it as well was incredibly important, not just on an academic level or a professional level, but I think also on a human level as well, because there were a lot of extracurricular opportunities and groups that you could be part of. I think they realized, or that I realized about the university quite early on, that this is, if you want to work. You're not just sort of, you've got an aim and you do want a career, that this is the place that will get you there, not because it's good for their statistics, but because they do want to produce good professionals. And I think that resonated quite deeply with me, because then they look at you as a person that they will make into a professional, rather than someone that they could feed through a sort of machine, which was very important to me. And I think maybe that is important to students who return at an older age,
Sure.
because you have less time to make mistakes, or less time to not get where you need to be. But to me, everything with the tutors, for me, it was the tutors, whether it was your personal tutor or just within class, the opportunity to not just, anyone can do the reading. And I think we're finding a lot with, I'm doing various online courses as well, where you can do the reading and you can actually do it yourself. But it was the tutor support and the pastoral support, which was, I think, incredibly important and so well done. You didn't feel that you were under a lens, and at the same time you felt that you had this personal attention, and it was made really joyful, I think, for me.
Oh, good. And the same for you, Aidan, in many respects, with regard to the University of West London, how is it supported? And from your perspective as well, and I'm not too sure, Shadia, if this would be the case for yourself, placement, were you able to do a placement, and did this kind of then support you in that kind of development?
Yeah, that was something I was going to say. It was a really big thing for me. So when I went to university, the kind of format was before I went to university, that I was explained to, was that I'd do my first full academic year, and then I would have a year. I think it was actually the first full 1.5 academic years, and then I would have a year off doing a placement, and then come back for the remainder of my course. But there was actually something that I wanted to do as part of that placement, and I wanted to travel a lot and work still to do that placement. So I actually went and got a job at the time. It was Thompson Holidays as a rep across Europe, and at the time, it was very personal, because the conventional format the university had set for me, it wasn't the dates and everything I was trying to work out with working for Thompson. It didn't quite work. So I actually came to James and a few other people. I'm sure we might have seen a lot of people since then, so he remembers. But we sat in lecture theatre, and I said afterwards, and I explained, I said, I want to work for Thompson, and the dates would be from April for a full year as opposed to the dates we're looking at. And they said, yeah, absolutely fine, not a problem, we can do that. Come to us, let us know if you need anything to sort of support it or anything. And within 2 months, I was in Spain, having a fun time. And then all those skills I'd learned in that first semester of my first year at university, we were talking about airports and hotel management and things. I was living it. I was in an airport. I was dealing with reservations. I was dealing with things in hotels, running excursions. It was everything. So did that for the year. So from that point of view, my placement year was a huge part. And having that placement year, because I felt like a very closed person before I went to university. And I remember the first presentation I did it was one of my first lectures. I was absolutely terrified to stand up in front of 3 people, little 18, 19-year-old me at the time. And I came back from doing the placement, and I was stood up in front of everybody, and I didn't care. It wasn't a problem. I'd been doing it on all the fun TUI welcome meetings every morning of my yes. of my year, having a good time. So yeah, it hugely helped me to do that. But also everything else at university, the Students' Union, for example, working there, but being a part of that, and I was in the snow sports club, and meeting a lot of people again. I was quite a close person before, and it hugely opened me up to being very sociable, probably too sociable sometimes, but I had a wonderful time. So all those things, kind of all the fun stuff, but at the same time, all the other bits that I gained, which was especially being in travel, all the presentations and the more kind of non-exam stuff, which is a lot of communication, as James know, in the travel industry makes a big part of it, and having the opportunities for them to piece that together definitely made that easier.
Yeah. And I suppose linked to that in some respects, you mentioned the Students' Union, etc. How about the Students' Union? How has that kind of helped kind of reinforce your career and supported you in your development?
Yeah, well, I actually had a lot of opportunities, because when I went to the University of West London, I'm really interested in skiing, do a lot of skiing, and there was no snow sports club. And I remember walking in on the day and said, "Where's the snow sports club?" And they said, "There's not one, but you can make one if you want." And I became the president of the snow sports club at the University Students' Union. And I think to this day it actually has more members than any other club in the Students' Union, of people going away and having a week skiing, getting together and going to some of the indoor ski centres across the UK. So from that, again, from doing that and being a part of it, and management and leadership skills, they were really, really engaging and wanted to put bits together to help, obviously, with the student voice and having people involved. So yeah,
the university were very encouraging about, if you and remember, they're not expecting everything. This experience, if you're going to UWL or any university, well, it is what you make of it. It's what you want to put into it, or how much you want to be involved in it. So yeah, when I heard on the open day that if you can find, at the time I think it was 11 other people who think like you, start a group, see how it goes. And you have this opportunity to do it if you want. The student union was a lot of fun, and very, just, I think, very nice spirited, I think, because you hear a lot about various student unions, and that's great. It works how it does, and it works with various organizations as well. But it was a very, I think in law, especially, whatever kind of law that you want to do, even if you're not sure, behind it, every piece of paper is a person. And if you need or want the opportunity to be able to develop those skills, I hate saying people skills, because that's something that should come relatively naturally, but there are a lot of practitioners out there, fantastic lawyers, and not so great on people skills. But as with any other profession, this is one of the places to do it. So for example, on the law course, you might, I remember being a course rep, I think for the LPC as well, and that starts your mindset in sort of representing others as well. On the LPC, I was lucky enough, there was an opportunity for a work placement at a local law firm in the particular area that I was interested in as well. And so you have those particular opportunities. But yeah, I think that what helped for me was dealing with me as a person first, and then putting me in the place.
Sure. Excellent stuff. So that's the kind of start then, in some respects, of your careers, and how the universities kind of helped support in the kind of initial kind of context of that. When we look at getting into your career and how that has then developed, I suppose, Aidan, to start with, the kind of industry skills that you've gained by being at a university, how has that kind of helped your confidence and your ability to kind of move forward with regards to your development and perhaps progression within companies?
So yeah, as I mentioned before, with the kind of presentation skills and things that I learned, then having done that at university, coming back and doing it again after working abroad for TUI and carrying on. And once you get back and you're used to speaking in front of lots of people, then the lecturers can really home in on the things you're doing good and things you're doing bad and make you a better person. But I think anyway, they make you an individual, all-rounded person. Hugely, and that is kind of a stepping stone up the companies you go to and the ladders you take to move forward. So they're kind of a bulb, and you sprout out of the bulb into the person you are, and they really kind of make you that person to begin with. And obviously within that, the course for me, it was, say, there was lots of report writing and things like that. Well, as I mentioned, when I was doing my Silk Road work for my other company, huge part, because you're having to piece together reports and justify why, for example, that is a destination we need to go into and it's going to be good revenue for the business. And having already written a load of reports for my modules at the university, it made it so much easier. And again, that then I've done that, and that's on my CV as such, and I can then apply for my next job, and I've got all those skills that I've been taught. And yeah, progression from there, I would say. Huge part.
And Shadia, same for you in some respects. The kind of confidence that's kind of been at a university and doing a course within law has actually given you in kind of that progression in and across your career.
I think confidence is something that you gain with experience. And how can you get that when you're starting on a degree that you've never done before? Is first of all being put at ease by people looking at you as a person, and not just a product, as sort of a potential end product, and that helps put you at ease at the first place. I suppose the second prospective confidence that I could gain was that all my tutors were practitioners. They were either already working, especially on the legal practice course, they were already practicing solicitors or barristers as well, and could tell you what the profession was like, could anecdotally add to the reading material or the core subjects that we had to do, and humanize it and make it, because the practical, there is a world of difference between your degree and the LPC, not because the LPC is insurmountable, but the volume will be a lot more, but the comprehensibility will probably be more accessible. And then there's a huge difference between that and actually sort of being in practice. And then there are just things that you just can't, that you there is no module for. I suppose because also your degree is whatever you craft it to be. It's probably the first and last time that you'll ever be able to work on this world for you, about you, and to welcome yourself into. And yes, of course, it's across the board that it depends on the times that you're in, the opportunities that are out there, various things that, even if you have the best CV in the world and all the best marks, there are just some things that you can't foresee, but in a way that's a positive, because every law student will tell you that, for every interview they've been offered, they've had probably about 20 or 30 rejections, and it's almost like being an actor, but not. And this is good because you're ultimately learning about where you're supposed to be, and that's a very good thing. And so I think particularly on the LPC, if you manage to carry over some of the tutors that you had, and they recognized how to help you through that transition as well, rather than just starting again. They're already invested in being interested in how you progress, and it becomes like quite a family.
For example, we have a radio studio here. We've now got a Boeing 737 flight simulator. For law, we've got the moot room, and we also have the mock kind of courtroom. I don't know if you were able to use those facilities during your period at being at the university, but how much do you think they kind of help with regards to the development of those skills and that kind of confidence that you were talking about that you gain?
Yeah, I think we had the moot room, and I think now probably the moot room is more of a standing feature. The moot room for us is that if you wanted to join a particular group or society, and that will help you, because it wasn't just run by students, it was run by, I think at the time, at my time anyway, it was a couple of the criminal and general practitioner barristers as well who are doing it. So they were in court, they would know what's expected, and it's wonderful to watch as well. And I think one of the things you do learn is that actually a really good lawyer doesn't actually have to say too much, just the right thing, which may be slightly betrayed now, but then again, that wasn't another thing. I think a misconception for a lot of students was that the more they spoke or the more they contradicted, that's what made a lawyer, and then it didn't transpire to be so, because then you would be taken along that example and you would be worked with about it without feeling any sort of humiliation or sort of that you were put on the spot, but you could see the wisdom where it was. So yeah, the facilities are all there. It's just a matter of if you want to partake.
Excellent. Thank you. So one thing I suppose to kind of look at that kind of progression is, and to get ahead is networking. Both fantastic examples of the alumni that we actually have here at the university. I wonder if you can tell me, and starting with you, Shadia, about how you've actually built your network and kind of how this has kind of helped support your career, and how much that network kind of links back into perhaps your peers, etc., that were at the University of West London.
Yeah, well, again, it was kind of two parallel networks, if you like. So while studying, I was also volunteering with the community advice program that was affiliated with, that was actually run by some of my tutors as well, and it's still actually going, which helps a huge amount, because you get a diagnostic approach, with other volunteer practitioners who go there as well, and you learn things about assisting the public in a way that you never could sort of from a book. At the same time, there was also my legal practice course, which had a connection to for a work placement, which then eventually became my place of paralegal debut, if you like, and then my training contract. And so, yeah, so from, and that was because I think at the time, a former LPC graduate had become a partner in that firm and had offered this. So, you know, it's like when I said it becomes like a large family, I think that's what networking should be. It should be rather like a large, very not too clingy family in a way, in that it's not just because, oh, you know, we went to the same university, but because you know people, and you know, particularly a university is interested in producing a particular kind of professional. So, you know, I mean, someone who knows it's come from UWL, you know what it's like. You know that this person's going to have professional skills enough to recommend on, and then go from there. And so, yeah, when obviously I'm qualified as a solicitor, then I went into the public. That was in a private law firm. Then I went to the public sector with what is now the Government Legal Service, and then made my way into, from there I got offered a role in local government, as in community services law, in various local government posts there. It actually led me to my husband, which was who's a barrister as well. So that was unforeseen but highly welcome. And yeah, and from there, you know, because you have this as well, I got the chance to go to the United Nations in Geneva and lobby on health and public law issues there as well, at the International Committee on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. So that was a huge opportunity as well. And then from there, you're able to bring more to each role that you are, until you find a particular place that you want to stay, and retain it. And I think going back to the university for the law dinners, going back to the university or keeping in touch, for example, I was really honored to be asked to be a mentor. I think the mentorship program is a fantastic idea. It's one of those other developed ideas from when I was there that would have been really excellent as well, on top of everything. So it's, I think, you know, WL, again, they don't just make you and leave you. They want to make sure that you're still okay, and that you, if you wanted to help others in the same way that you could. So it's kind of ongoing. It's like a nice but very cool parent.
Well, there we are. Thank you, Shadia. And then Aidan, for yourself, obviously networking within travel and tourism is a highly important kind of element to kind of progress, etc., as it does tend to be perhaps closed in some respects to part of that progression link. How about yourself with regards to networking? How has being part of the university and undertaking placements helped you with regards to progression?
Yes, so I mean, at university itself, before I finished and I was still there, I mean, you're looking for jobs and things, and you've got your LinkedIn profile up, and you've got looking around, and then straight away looking for travel jobs, and suddenly all these companies you look at, and they're all saying, you have connections with your university here, everywhere. And it was astounding to see all these places. And it's obviously, you know, that they're looking through CVs and they see the University of West London come up as where you've gone to university. You're already kind of in the door a little bit more than other people, because they kind of have a connection with you, to see those things within the university itself. And then, yeah, from working, I've got friends that I was when I was working, both for TUI and the travel company at university, who have progressed my career through recommendations and things that I've wanted to do and move forward with. They've hugely helped with that, and I've been able to do lots of different things, and of course through the networking as well, working in the travel industry, getting some nice little perks along the way, with everything from the people I've met. And then, yeah, since leaving university, I've always tried, being connected with some of my lecturers, and they've helped me, and I do some volunteering with university on some charities whereby I do some panel events like these, and I meet other people also volunteering on a panel event, and then I've stayed in touch with them. So people I would never have met, but I've been connected by the university, where I've actually met some people who have helped us at our company get some new contracts with hotels and things, even now. So it comes in all different shapes and forms, but it stems from being at university and originally meeting those people, from the opportunities that they give you. Then you start to network across the industry, and it keeps going. It really does keep going, meeting different people all the time.
Great stuff. So that then moves us into kind of advice and some questions I'd like to ask you with regards to the individuals who are perhaps looking to come into university, studying at this moment in time. And therefore, Aidan, as you're still on the big screen for me, what would you say to someone who is looking to pursue a career in travel and tourism or in any other part of the university, but is also thinking about coming to university?
I would say the university really does shape you. Instead, if you can walk into a job, and that is absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with walking into a job and starting from the bottom. But I personally think it hugely shapes who you are, and they don't just give you a direction when you get to university. Especially my personal thoughts from being at UWL is you turn up and they give you a billion directions you can choose from, but guide you on the one that's right for you. And the opportunities are all there. But I say, as much as the opportunities are, you've really got to want those opportunities. And if you take those opportunities, then you'll just keep going. You'll keep going and going, and you can make your life what you want and your career what you want.
Excellent. Shadia, same question to you. What would you say to someone who's looking to pursue a career and thinking about university? You're on mute, Shadia, sorry.
Sorry.
No.
I would say do it. Do it, because I remember actually being very scared about going back to university or going to university at all. At the stage that I went to, I was afraid, particularly of doing law, because I thought, this is, what if I make a mistake? Someone's life is going to be ruined. This is real kind of thing, as if what I was doing wasn't real. But you need to know that, if you're going to take that step, first of all, you need to want to do it, even if you're a little bit scared of it, because that's healthy. Everything we do, getting up in the morning sometimes is a bit scary. So don't worry about that. Don't worry about the fear. But I think what will help you is that, if you, whatever fear you have, just talk to your tutors about it. Talk to your tutors about what you're thinking, about what you're feeling, about how to, you can always change. You can always go, for example, from law into tourism or vice versa. I mean, the university has so many different courses that you might just want to sidestep bit between them all. But I think now I cannot imagine someone who really wanted to pursue something unless they were incredibly sort of X factor lucky, which doesn't really happen in these professions. I can't imagine it happening without going to university at all. I would say also this is a fantastic era in many respects, and not so much in others for social media. So if you have a Facebook page, or you're on Twitter or Instagram, or you TikTok your way through the day, or any other kind of social media, just beware that of what you're saying out there. Not that your opinion is not valid, or you don't have freedom of expression or freedom of opinion rights. That's all, your Article 10 rights are, protected, subject to the caveats in Article 10.2. You'll know that when you get on the course, don't worry. It's freedom of expression. Just be mindful about it. But if you're probably the perfect person, who would have their opinions as well. I think the other thing I would say is sometimes taking a risk does pay off. You can always change your mind, but I think people always regret the things that they didn't do. They don't necessarily regret things like this that they did do, even if they thought it may not be for them after a while. But yeah, don't be too afraid, because now I think especially there's been so many developments, and so I think especially from when I went to university, there's a lot more recognition of various things, various issues, various approaches, well-being especially, and that's actually for me at the time what set this university apart from everyone, this idea about looking at someone's well-being and also looking at the pastoral side of things. But so yeah, just go right ahead, enjoy it, make it yours. It's the one biggest opportunity you'll have to create your own world.
Fantastic, thank you. And staying with that in some respects, for some people, obviously the future does look scary based on the number of choices and directions that they can go in. What would your message, Shadia, be to them?
I would say, if you have a little voice inside you saying something, unless it's the one that says don't do anything, which is just fear, your inner radar is usually right. And if you are like me and you thought, I can't do it because I can't, not because I don't want to, but because, you know, you might doubt yourself. And, you know, I think our inner critics sometimes take over and become, you know, we listen to them more than advice. Then that's not really a good enough reason to do nothing, because doing nothing is actually a decision as well. You might think, well, if I don't do it, I know, you know, I know that I can't go wrong about it. And there's nothing wrong with going wrong about it, or you know, I don't want to say failure, because I mean, it's failing is actually just not trying. And so I think, you know, I don't know anyone who's gone through it that hasn't found it a beautiful experience, especially the way this university is set up. In that, you know, if you want to be the kind of student who just you know, wants to go through the syllabus and do their reading, just do it all quite, you can do that. If you want to be the kind of student that's completely out there and you're, you know, on your course rep, this rep, doing, or, you know, launching all sorts of groups, you can do that too. If you want to be somewhere in the middle, you can do that. It's the range and scope and diversity of approach as well as content is, there's something for everyone, I think. So you know, don't be afraid. It'll I think if someone you know, there was especially in this day and age, there's probably a lot more to be afraid of, but I think managing that and going ahead is something that you wouldn't regret as much.
Thank you. Aidan, anything to add on that? Or
yeah, I mean, Shadi said before, so getting up in the morning could be scary sometimes, but I mean, everything's scary, and usually you become afraid because you want something. For example, you go to a job interview and you get a little bit nervous and you're scared, but it's because you want it. So if you're thinking of going to university and you're a little bit scared, it's because you actually do want to go, most likely. It's just the unknown about what's going to be the other side of that. But I mean, having James taught me on my first lecture, it was always scary. I'm joking. He'll chew your ear off for hours. But no, it's everything's a little bit scary. It's because, as you say, in my experience, it's because you want something. But I say, when you go to school, for example, you're always scared on your first day of school. But when you get over that and you put that to the side and you think you know what you want to do, you'll then open up and you'll become who you are. And even if you're a little bit scared, for example, you can go to the student union and join a club and you'll meet a bunch of people and they'll tell you, it's okay, well, we're doing this, we're doing that. And you end up making friends, and the fear definitely goes. And fear being scared in a lot of cases is life. We not sure, and it's the unknown. If you're not sure what's going to happen next, then you're always going to have it. But we all move, and all these opportunities arise from that when you move forward through it.
Exactly. Excellent. And I'll stay with you, Aidan, for this one. If you could give advice to the person you were 5 to 10 years ago, what would that advice be?
Little closed me 10 years ago. It would definitely be to take opportunities, but also find opportunities myself. That would be the advice that I would give, and do something actually that I was hugely interested in, and not what somebody else should influence what you should do. That's what I would say. Because I went to an all boys school, and it was all very much red brick universities, and this is how you iron your trousers, and this is how you go to an office. But that was always there for my younger days. But my passion was, I wanted to learn about travel. And I put that to the side, and probably in a way they were a bit sad that I didn't want to go to my red brick university, but I actually wanted to pursue a travel industry and just do it for me, because that's my life. That's what I was interested in. And yeah, that's my advice. I would say, put you first for your kind of younger days in education, and take every opportunity that comes to you. And the benefit I found at UWL was that I had opportunities, but I was also given opportunities by my lecturers and the peers there to help me. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Excellent. Thank you. And Shadia, same question to you, if that's okay.
5 to 10 years ago, I would, assuming that's when I went, I would have told myself 2 things. I would have said, you're right to try and plan and apply and do as much as you possibly can at the moment, but you will not actually know where your happy ending is going to come from. So go with the flow as much as you plan, and you can't leave everything to the flow, literally, but trust if something isn't happening for you, that something else is actually either meant for you or coming your way. I would never foresaw the area of law that I absolutely adore now, and being in court and doing that kind of work for some of society's most vulnerable people is such a thrill, such a buzz. Obviously not for the people that we're getting to stop doing whatever they're doing to those poor people, but at the same time, I would never have foreseen it. I wanted to be a media lawyer. I thought I'd be rubbing shoulders with George Clooney and having great time at Top of the Pops at the time, back parties, but then I realized it was all contract law, and I thought, oh my god, no, I'm definitely not doing that. But you just don't know where your happiness is actually going to come from, but all you can do is put the effort in exactly where you are, plan as much as you can, but you can't plan for every possible outcome. The other thing I would say, and actually that we were told first, which was incredibly helpful, is to treat your first year and your second year and your third year like your last year at school, university, because you want to. You want, this doesn't mean you cannot have fun, you cannot enjoy the university experience in every way, shape and form, but trying to make it all up in the third year, especially in law, is a lot. It's a lot to try and rest all that time and effort that you've put into it to try and rest it all on the last year, to pull up if you need to pull up more. And some people have great circumstances or issues or things where that's going to be necessary, and that's absolutely fine. But if you have the opportunity to develop a really good early work ethic and treat every year of your university life as the one where you need to get as much as you possibly can, and don't just think, I'll leave it to the last year or the third year where it's going to count more, you'll give yourself a much better foundation going forward. Because when you're in your job, every day is your third year. And that doesn't mean that you can't make errors. It doesn't mean that all of us have made errors in the professional world. It's just how you come back from that and do it. But at least set yourself up and save yourself a bit of breathing time later on. I suppose the last thing I would have told myself is that it is going to be all right. It really is.
Yes. Good advice. Then I suppose one of the things, Shadia, I think that you mentioned earlier on, open days and whether or not the course is right for you or not. How important was an open day for you to kind of be able to look around the facilities, to kind of get a feel of the university, and therefore whether or not it was the right choice you were making?
It was pivotal. It was absolutely pivotal. And I remember my parents even came with me as well, because it was really important to them, because it was, going back, even though I was quite young, I was still not, an 18-year-old. And so it was absolutely pivotal to see not just the lay of the land of the university and what the campus was like and the facilities and how it would work sort of on the ground, but also the approach of the talks that we were having, the tutors that were talking to us, the kind of approach. Also some students spoke as well. It was to get the feel of a place. It's kind of, if you're going flat hunting or something, whether you're renting or buying, you go in a place and you think, I could live here. And that is very, it's the human touch. I know it's been difficult in the last year, yes. and that's absolutely necessary and fine as it is. But I think wherever you can get information from people that you can talk to, apart from what you can get from a perspective, because everyone can look at the website now. You don't even need a prospectus anymore. You can just go straight on the website. The passport to most organizations and identities are there. But it really helped to speak to people there and to listen to how they were talking about it, and how they were approaching what they were saying, because you expect them to say, this is what we do, and we want to welcome everybody, but it was little things like the way they were talking about the student union and about how they approach the classes, and that if you feel that you could ask them there and then and get an answer that would help you, that's pretty much how it's going to turn out, depending who's there.
Excellent, thank you. Aidan, for yourself, did you attend an open day or?
I did, and James actually was the person who did my open day. So I know, but I mean, you can probably tell from this chat, James is a very relaxed person, and I think that hugely helped. That gave me a good sale of going to UWL by his relaxed personality. Which huge. I mean, I was lucky when I was at university. They were just in the process of making everything all look shiny and new and fantastic with the library, which I read an awful lot of books in and spent a lot of time in, which was, but amazing library. Which is that was all getting in the process now. Now it's all finished and
it's all done,
done, which is all, it looks great. But yeah, I think it was the kind of relaxed, very informal way of the open day where we sat down and we talk about the course, but also things like we were given examples of what you would do on your placement year. And at the time I was told about these people doing these things, and I was thinking, are they actually going to go and do these things abroad, or are they just saying it because they want people to come? And then a year later, that was me. I was the person around Europe doing all these, I think I went in Spain, Austria and Greece in that year. And literally that was on the screen, and James was talking about these people doing these amazing things. And the opportunities that they gave on the open day actually did materialize into what they were. So yeah, I mean, the facilities plus the attitude of the people and the friendliness of the people, and especially, I mean, the campus of UWL being in Ealing, it's hybrid London in the sense that it's not full on, but it's peaceful with the parks, and from being from the middle of the countryside, it's a good introduction to city life, and now I'm still there now. So yeah,
excellent. And then we've got one question that's come in. Aidan, I think you've kind of answered it with regards to, did you have a job when you were actually studying? So from the placement, you also worked for a tour operator, travel agent during your time. Shadia, you work when you were actually at university to help?
I did. I worked up to the point, I think, where I did summer jobs and things like that, and some part-time work during university as well. I did want to focus on my studies as much as I possibly could, but I was working, and it's very well connected there. I didn't live incredibly far either, but I mean, you're on the district line in Ealing, which takes you everywhere that you need to go. You've got excellent bus service there. I think it's all so much better and well connected now. I think the only I think just in the last 2 semesters of my final year, I just focused fully on the studying. But yeah, I could do it all. And then I think actually when I was doing my training contract, I then went back to teach undergraduate law back at university for a while training as well. So then I did it the other way around as well, and that was incredible. That was an incredible opportunity, not just to stay connected with UWL, but to teach undergraduate stuff, up till probably about a year before I had just been.
Amazing. Excellent. And then we have another question that comes in that says, basically, how did you know that the course that you were taking is the right one for you?
Shall I answer that one?
Go on then.
I think because of, the lecturers when I was on my open day specifically were so enthusiastic about travel, and that was me in my little baby days wanting to be enthusiastic, and they were talking about all these places around the world and airports, and yeah, that made me really connect with the university and making the right choice for me. I've been to a few open days, and they're all kind of, I think, almost offering them because they felt they had to, not because they wanted to. And I felt that UWL were doing it because that was a big part of their school, which it is. So, and as well, there were lecturers there who worked part-time in the industry and taught, which I know is quite rare to find, instead of somebody being an academic all their life, but people who actually can talk about things that are relatable to the industry that they've actually done themselves.
Good stuff. Shadia, would you like to add to that, or?
Initially I got a list of providers for the degree course and the legal practice course from the Law Society at the time, and this was one of the universities on. So, and then the open day made the decision for me. Really, again, being the prospect of also being taught by actual practitioners who hadn't just been practitioners, but were also practicing at the same time, was very exciting, and the approach was huge. But I think if you mean the course as in the subject, well, I wanted to do law, but the course as in this particular university or this particular provider, then yeah, that's what did it for me, the open day and the approach, and I think the feeling that I could live there. It's not my dog.
No, don't we?
Yeah, that I could just get on and ask questions, and they seem very human. first, rather than just sort of manufacturers.
Excellent, excellent. I think that's about it for the way of the questions from the audience. One last question for me, for the pair of you then. What was your best day at the university? And I'm hoping I know the answer to this, but go on, your best day.
Every day.
Excellent.
Every day. It really was every day.
Look back with fond memories, yeah?
Totally. It was every day. It was literally. I look back at it now. You can never really, even if you go back and do sort of a part-time course, or you want to do another, it's never quite the same as when you first do it. So every day was, even the bad days were just good days. And when I say bad days, it's one word. There's so much reading to do or anything. Graduating was a really, I don't think you realize how much it means to you until it happens. Whatever result you get. The ones who got firsts, whether they got firsts, 2 1s, 2 2s, thirds, whatever, that you're all together at that point. They don't, you're all in the same cloak, the hat and everything. You've made it through that passage of time together. And whether you can attend the ceremony or not, the fact that you've done it it will mean a lot to you.
It's a fantastic day. Yeah. Aidan.
Sorry, my dog's finished barking. I do apologize, everybody. I mean, yeah, the graduation special day, especially, I mean, I was never at school super academic. I wasn't particularly, I think it was more because I was engaged in the courses that they were teaching at school. So I never thought in a million years I'd be able to go to university, and I got a first at university. I never thought that would happen. So the graduation for me was a really, really special moment that actually proved to myself that I was capable of much more, obviously with the aid of the university. But I think at university that is the case, but even I'd say every day since university as well. Every day I do something, or when I got a new job and things, I knew that those days were founded by being at university, and I just built on those. So yeah, both of those, I'd say graduation there and then afterwards as well.
Excellent. Well, that leads us to the end quite nicely. It's nearly up to the hour. So I would just like to thank Aidan and Shadia for joining me for this afternoon's web discussion. And I'd also like to thank you for watching as well. I really do hope that you are able to join us again. We run a number of events across the University of West London, showcasing the amazing alumni that we actually have. If you're looking to start a course in the autumn, by the way, and I notice it's one of the questions that was asked earlier on, then we do have our website, which has got all the latest availability in our clearing offer. So please do look at that. We will also be posting this evening's webinar on YouTube with captions. So please do rewatch it and comment and share with friends if you can. So on behalf of myself, Aidan and Shadia, I'd like to wish you all a very good evening, and I hope to see you at a UWL event soon. Thank you very much, and good night.
Thank you very much. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Good luck.
Bye.
Bye.